allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you that you provide for our needs daily. Lord, be with our council as they make decisions and provide guidance. Lord, just give them wisdom as they do what's best for the people of Hutchinson. And Lord, we pray for wisdom for our people and patience as we seek to recover and continue to recover, and we thank you for that. And Lord, be with our legislative bodies in Topeka and Washington, D.C., and we pray that they would look to you for guidance. Lord, we thank you most of all for your Son, Jesus Christ. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
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 Well, at this time, we'd like to give oral communication on the phones, 5 minutes, and give your name and address. Okay.
Item 5, consent agenda.
I move we can approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Roll, please. Call.
Tyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Daveline.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Item 6A, public hearing for vacation of right-of-way at 3304 North Severance.
I move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Tyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Daveline.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Good morning, Council. Jessica Lowe, Assistant City Engineer. The city received a vacation petition from the Hutchinson East Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses to vacate a portion of the existing right-of-way, which is located on lots 14 and 15, Block G of the Garden Grove Addition subdivision. This will allow removal of the right-of-way from the footprint of an existing building that's situated on the lots. All city departments and utility companies have responded and approved the vacation. It's recommended, due to the responses from the affected parties, that City Council approve the proposed vacation of the portion of the right-of-way located on the west side of lots 14 and 15, Block G of the Garden Grove Addition. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. No questions?
In that case, I will move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Call roll, please.
Tyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Daveline.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
I move to approve the vacation of the order vacating street right-of-way at 3304 North Severance and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay, if there's no comments from the audience, I'll call roll. Tyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Daveline.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7, consider resolution approving trucks, taps, and tunes as a special event.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. You have before you a proposed resolution for this special event. Just so you have an idea of where it's located, it is west of the Parks Department building and south of the skate park.
Okay.
South of the skate park, west of the Parks Department building. It's still a part of Cary Park, but it's just that portion south of Acre Street right there. Okay? And there's a little bit of a map on there. But in order for them to hold that event on our park land, they need a special event district, which is what's being proposed with this resolution. You can see the little diagram of it there, has their location of their food trucks, their drink service areas, and and you can see the outline of it. But the resolution is for the ability to serve alcoholic beverages. They cannot do it without it, because it's a portion of the park. And it, quite frankly, protects their event. That's about all I've got on that.
What are the hours of the event?
It shows it's 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.,
10 a.m. to 10 p.m., okay,
and it is on a Saturday.
on Saturday?
You guys may recall, this was originally petitioned for Orchard Park, and so we appreciate the applicant being flexible and proposing that location.
Yes, thank you with working with them to ensure that this event can happen and
Yeah.
finding a middle ground.
I think Justin and the other department heads spent considerable time on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Now, do you have somebody on Zoom on this one? Okay.
Yeah, Todd's looking over to get.
Okay.
And while we're waiting, I'll just mention it to the council for security. We included a page of their application that shows it's being provided by Hutch Regional Medical Center security officers for the event.
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
didn't catch that.
That's great. We can't get her back to work, so I don't think she's gonna be able to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, because her mic's not working, so.
Okay.
Well, we encourage her to come back at the next meeting. I
Yes.
think the City Hall will be open by then if she's interested in telling us a
Yeah.
little bit about the organization.
Right.
Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve or disapprove?
I move to approve a resolution to authorize a special event pursuant to City Code Section 18-801 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second?
Roll call.
Iris DeCarlo,
Yes.
Dayline.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Bagwell.
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Item 7B, consider charter ordinance regarding commencement of terms for city council members.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. Council, I gave you a lot here. There's one simple thing that's occurring. We're just having the terms of the council match the schedule that the state requires. Currently, we have a gap. The terms are required by state law to start on the second Monday of January. Well, none of our meetings are on the second Monday of January, okay? And that started out in 2015 when the state moved all the elections from the spring to the fall. And I know 3 of you remember that because you all got extended terms.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, you got the benefit of those extended terms. And then in 2019, the legislature recognized that, you know, municipalities and school boards all across the state, they don't all meet on the second Monday. The state does. And so they gave some flexibility to have the terms start anywhere from December 1 to the second Monday in January. Okay? And for our governing body, that means it can be the first meeting in December, the second meeting in December, or the first meeting in January. And for this charter ordinance, you need to select one date, and it has to be approved by 2/3 of you because it's a charter ordinance. And all it does is bring them together, that the term will start on the same date that we meet, and then we can swear in the mayor and vice mayor as we normally do, because it will change the date of the annual organization meeting. And that's all we're doing, is trying to eliminate the gap. I would have done that earlier, but we were still transitioning through those extended terms. But now we've gotten past that and ready to make and match up so that we don't have, it hasn't occurred up to this point, but we don't want a point where the city council's terms have expired and the new city council members haven't been sworn in yet. So it leaves a gap and it brings it together. The 3 dates, first Monday, first meeting in December, sometimes it's close to Thanksgiving. Sometimes we're wrapping up year-end things, second meeting in December. I don't know that's a lot of difference. The latest it will ever be is the 21st. The first meeting in January, it just gets moved one day every once in a while for New Year's Day.
I would suggest the first Tuesday in January, which would be consistent with the calendar year and the budget year, so that'd be my suggestion.
I agree with Avon, yeah. Makes sense. I was gonna suggest that, so.
I have no strong feelings, so whatever
I agree
the
with
rest
that.
of the council wants.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor, if you just entertain a motion to have it the first meeting in January, then we can finish this up.
I would move to approve a charter ordinance amending and repealing existing section 2.1A composition of charter ordinance number 38, amending and repealing existing section 2.7 annual organization meeting of charter ordinance number 38, as modified by charter ordinance number 51, and selecting the first meeting of January as the commencement date of the terms of newly elected city council members, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Tyler Stegall,
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Bagwell,
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Item 8, report of city officials.
Okay, John, you got anything?
I don't have anything this morning.
Oh, boy. How about you, Sarah?
No, I don't have anything this morning.
Jade?
I do have 2 items.
Okay.
Firstly, I wanted to make everyone aware, if you didn't see it, that the governor opened up additional phases for vaccination last night. I just spoke with the county before coming to this meeting, and they are encouraging people to sign up for that vaccine, pretty much open at this point. It's not technically open to phase 5, which includes everybody over the age of 18, but they are accepting registration appointments. So if you go to renogov.org, you can click on a graphic on the homepage and walk through a few questions. There's very few questions, and those vaccines will be given at the church down here, the Methodist Church, in the southeast side of town. So I encourage everyone to do that. We're currently at 17% vaccinated in the county, which they said is going really well. The other item I had is that I understand that cities with population less than 50,000 will receive money from the state as a part of the relief plan that was just passed. I guess if you're a larger city, then you get that money directly from the government. I'm not sure if Hutchinson is set to get anything, since we didn't necessarily have the revenue shortfall that we were anticipating, but do you know if everybody gets something or what we'll get?
I don't yet know. We don't yet have all of our bills in, and we don't really know what the status of that is. At least as of last week, I didn't know. But we'll definitely look
Okay.
into that
Okay.
to see if we can position ourselves favorably.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nancy?
Nothing.
Okay, I have one item. I went last Friday to the kickboxing at Convention Hall. Was really impressed. Never seen a kickboxing before. It was kind of action stuff, and I think it was great. We had a lot of people there, no problems, and we're going to have another one on May 1st. I think it's boxing. Am I right? Boxing. Could you come up to the pulpit, please, sir? Yes, it went really well. Your employees did a good job. I was there, and I walked around and talked to people. Everybody enjoyed it. Let's try to keep that going, and we need to get the Convention Hall, Memorial Hall going again. And I just talked to the chief. It was a good time, right, Chief? So,
We didn't have any problems there at all. It was well organized.
good, good.
Good.
Yeah,
Is-
thank you. Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. Yeah, we had several staff there just to make sure with that large of an event that we didn't have a plumbing issue right in the middle of the event or something
Right.
like that. Really just to make sure things went smoothly. We probably don't do the greatest job of advertising the building, but really word of mouth is starting to spread, especially in that community. kind of the mixed martial arts and the boxing. I think we're going to continue to see those as long as the facility still will hold them. I think they're going to outgrow it, or they could. I think they had a lot of ticket sales pre-event, so as it grows, we may have to find another space for them. But yeah, I was not there. I was out of town, but it seemed like a great event. Everything I heard was very positive. So.
Yes, it was really good. I was really impressed.
Yeah. Our staff did a great job.
Yes, they did. I was there and I talked to them.
Good.
I hope we can get more events.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Other than that, that's all I have. Mr. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor. You guys may recall the Woody Seat application that the city petitioned for some time ago, and that was not a hugely popular project in the Bricktown community, but it does raise the question due to the vast expense of that project and the rapid rate of deterioration of that elevated structure. It's probably appropriate that we would have a discussion to see if the governing body would support another application for that project. If we decided not to do that, because I think we might have a pretty good feel for what the community would and wouldn't support, we would then have to fund it some other way. And it would certainly cost more for the city to do it in an alternate fashion. That is something I definitely wanted to talk to you all about, and just to let you know that if we do go a different route on it, it will, number one, there's no guarantee with the grant. There's just no guarantee at all. We've lost that thing, I think, twice. Time is of the essence too, a little bit based on the conditions, so we've got some issues there. It's not to say that if we made application, we would be funded, because it hasn't happened in the past. Just the same, I feel an obligation to discuss it with you all to see which route you would want to go with that, knowing that it would cost us more money ultimately if we funded it internally or through other means. Thank you, Jeff.
We have looked at the applications from previous years, and I think we wouldn't be asking for money to do that this year. We would put together the application if you guys choose to go that route. So that's kind of, I just wanted to add that.
So we wouldn't be using the consultant this year?
No, we wouldn't, because I think we have enough experience on what's needed in that, that we could actually repackage it. There's not a lot of things that we would change anyway. It would just update some verbiage maybe if we would go that way with the roundabout. So.
Well, I'm sure glad you brought this up, and I've got some strong feelings, so I prepared a few remarks here, if you will bear with me here to kind of share my thoughts on the importance of this particular project here. I think we would all agree, and I suspect if you would do a public opinion on what our priority arterial projects would be, I believe the Woody Seat Freeway would be at the top of that list. It's a main arterial gateway corridor into our community. It is in bad disrepair, and it's time that we put our attention to it. As I have reviewed over the years of various federal programs, I can't think of a better opportunity to leverage federal tax dollars for this multi-million-dollar project. Our budgets are tight enough anyway, and we really, really, really need to take advantage of this next opportunity to resubmit our application. We need to get plugged into the process. I think it's important that we in Hutchinson get plugged into the U.S. Department of Transportation with this grant application. I can't emphasize enough the importance that we develop a consensus on the grant application, hopefully among ourselves as well as the community, to show the need and the community support, to send a clear message to U.S. Department of Transportation and our Kansas congressional delegation that we have a strong consensus that this is a top priority for our community. I think finally my thought would be these are very, very competitive applications. We have seen this in the past. U.S. Department of Transportation is keenly aware of the Hutchinson project. It has ranked high in the past, and we have been very, very close to being successful at it. So I would hope we would persevere with all vigor to resubmit the application, connect with our Kansas congressional delegation, and develop a community support for this grant application. So hopefully, those are my thoughts, and there may be others, but that's my view on the importance of the grant application.
And see, John, I've kind of swung the other way now. I mean, we've been, what, 2 years plus trying to get the grant, and we haven't been able to get the grant.
Right.
We're getting, I don't want to say trashed, but yet kind of, because we haven't done anything with it. Jeff, if we apply now, what's the time frame?
Typically, they haven't put out their notice of funding applications yet, but
Okay.
typically they start requesting applications after April and through like July, and then they put notice out on those ones who have received it by around October, November time period.
Okay, so we're basically another year
Correct.
plus before any work would get started. I agree. I know.
And we may be anyway.
Yeah, I
depending
mean,
on-
I know
on
what you're
that,
saying,
so.
John, but I'm kind of like, we need to do something with it. And if we continue to wait, I don't know.
Jeff, can you tell me what your plans are, should we not receive the grant? To Nancy's point, do we have something in the CIP lined up to?
There was something in the CIP, I believe, in 2000, I think it was 2019, actually. There was about $2.5 million
That sounds about
at
right.
that time, and that's what was our 20% portion of the grant application that we submitted last year. So it would be significantly higher if we don't have any outside funding to help us out. So our actual total grant or total application,
It was 8 million something,
well,
wasn't it?
for the grant portion,
Yeah.
actually about 9 million.
Okay.
With the total being about 11.2 million
Mm-hmm.
for that corridor. That goes all the way from the Arkansas River all the way through Avenue A.
I'd hate,
And there's 5 bridges
I'd hate
there.
if we'd walk away from $9 million opportunity.
Yeah, I know what you're
I'm with
saying,
you.
but,
I'm
you know,
gonna try to squeeze in here.
at some point in time, the opportunity goes away.
And these things take time. They simply take time, and it's not a quick fix. And we've got to, again, work through the process. And if we defer this through the application process for 6 to 9 months, I don't think we've lost anything if we're successful in attaining a $9 million federal grant.
Can I say something real fast? I think we should try for it again. I was on the fence about it before, but if you're gonna invest, $11 million into that area, I think, and surrounding neighborhood roads and sidewalks, I would like to see that when we get that done. Is there a possibility that because if we're gonna put this off another year, we need to do a little bit more on the maintenance side for this next year than we did previously. I would like us to commit to a certain amount of fixing, just because if we do wait another year, and I understand if we get it, it's all gonna be torn down, but it's really bad. Is there anything we can do to help it be just a little bit better over this next year?
We've looked at that a little bit. I've talked with Brian, the Director of Public Works. Like last year, we actually did do a little bit of chip sealing on that to kind of hold the surface for a little longer. There's might be other minor things we can do. I don't know that it'll improve the looks per se of that. It's still gonna look that way. There's probably some things we're gonna have to do just to maintain it going forward.
Yeah,
Jeff, I have
But not put a lot of money into it. if we
yeah,
have
like
it.
find the medium between
That's,
keeping
yeah,
it.
and medium's a little bit tough, but.
Yeah.
I feel pretty strongly in line with Dave Line's remarks that we can't let go of the opportunity to have that infusion of infrastructure investment in our community. There's no way we could shoulder a project of that size. And I know that if we didn't get the grant, we would never attempt to do something like that. But then we're left with trying to maintain 2 bridges that are just honestly too costly for our community to maintain. My concern is that I think we did not do enough. I'm not blaming you or anybody. I'm saying maybe it was the council's failure. We didn't do enough to engage the neighborhood in the solution. And I know we've tried to go back and repair some of that, but I'm wondering what can be done at this point prior to application submittal to make them feel heard, to address some of their concerns. And I know that we're not going to get 100% of people on board. We never do that with any project. It could be, I can't even think of anything. You could have unicorns from the sky and people wouldn't like it. But what can we do to make that community feel heard, that part of the community feel heard?
I know that they, when we had our meeting last year with them, they did indicate some items, you know, neighborhood-wise that may be able to help. We won't get everybody on board, I know that. There was some local streets that may need to be improved and some sidewalk access in some locations. We potentially could, I don't know that we'd add that to the project, but maybe we'd put that, some things in that area in the CIP so we could move some of those things forward in the meantime or something like that, potentially, so.
Well, I'm willing to strongly support the application, but I want additional efforts. If that's additional meetings, and maybe it's just meetings for us to go and get yelled at about how much they hate this, but I want to hear from them and educate them.
He's got a good point there.
And we have met with them, and it wasn't a comfortable meeting, per se. Steve was there, and he
But if
did a
there's
good
some
job.
things we can do throughout the year that's outside of it, but in that community that would tie in with the project?
Absolutely. I just
why
don't
don't
want
we
to
get
invest
ahead-
money to be ripped out. I want to, I
Huh?
mean, if we can invest in sidewalks on the perimeter of the project,
Yeah,
I would be, I think we need to do that regardless of
Yeah.
if we apply for the grant. That
yeah.
part of town has been neglected for too long.
But if we can get some of that going through the year while we're waiting on the process so that we can say we're invested in that part of town.
Well, the
What is on the
closing of
schedule?
B is still the biggest issue, isn't it?
Yes, that's,
I mean,
yes,
that to me is, that's
that
what
again, I
was,
the closing of B Street.
of B Street
Correct.
was the
That's-
largest.
And that's the difficult portion in
Yeah.
that community.
But if we
And
improve-
I realize that.
But if we improve some of the sidewalks and ability to walk and get to Avenue A on the exterior, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if we had better sidewalks and areas for people to travel in that
Garza,
area.
what are your thoughts? What
Well, I
did
was
you learn
waiting
from the
for
meeting?
everybody to
Because
get
I wasn't at the meeting,
I
so
was
I'm
waiting
curious
for
what
everybody
they
to get
said.
done. I've been out there this last week. I walked the neighborhoods on that side of town, talked to the business owners, talked to them all. They do not want the roundabout. They do not like their streets closed. And I think it's very important that your citizens be happy in that area of town. They're the ones that live there. They're the ones that had their B Street closed. What is the cost of repairing? Do we have a cost of repairing the bridges?
I have just a really high-level estimate of $5 to $7 million, but we'd have to get some engineering done, study on the existing bridges to see if they're gonna be replacement or if they're gonna be repairs. Like Avenue B is probably the one that most needs work right now, but Avenue C and Avenue A bridges are also the same vintage, like 1959 is when they were built.
Is the
so-
grant, is there any way we can write it different where we can get money to repair the bridges from the grant?
Not if that's, they would consider that more of a maintenance type
Mhm.
situation, so
Yeah,
there's
Doesn't
some
qualify.
very, very limited funds from the state, but that wouldn't pay for engineering to do the work.
Well, me meeting with the people, I think you need to have meetings and make them, help them understand what's going on. They do not, what I've seen, I have very, very few people in that area of town wants the roundabout. And they live there. And they don't want their bridge cutting off their streets. They want to have a say.
that's the biggest
And
issue.
so, but we make the final say. And I respect Mr. David Lane's comments, but when it comes to the bottom line, the people that live there have to live with what we put there. And it might be what's best for the city. We'll find that out after we talk to the citizens that are around here. I think my point of view is we need to meet with the citizens. Everybody come here, from north to south, to east to west, come here. Because it is a big project. This is for our city, but we need to get the input of the citizens. You're right, that was an uncomfortable meeting we went to, but we have to be uncomfortable
Sure.
sometimes to make decisions. And at least we involve the citizens of Hutch. How much time do you say we have before we don't fit in the line of this application?
Well, the application portion wouldn't probably be till almost July.
Mhm.
This the federal government, the U.S. Department of Transportation won't put out their funding guidelines. They're statutorily supposed to put those guidelines out by April 26th. So
Mhm.
sometime before April 26th, those things will come out. So
I think you can have some meetings here, with,
I think it would be good, though, to have a council member or two at those meetings,
Oh, yeah.
too, because
Yeah, no.
just being
Totally.
representatives,
Right.
then you get a feel of the,
right,
people
I think
too,
that's
so.
true too, but we need to get their say, and they help us in the input, to see what's going on. Now, sometimes when you go out there and talk to the people, I don't even know all the answers to the
well,
money.
I don't know all the answers.
You know.
But
But make them feel involved. That's, main thing what I'm concerned is the whole thing for the whole city, but we need the people who live there to have their say in it, because they're the ones that's gonna have their street blocked off. They're the ones that's gonna have to go clear around to get to Main Street. I don't really know what the answer is, but we have to get our public involved. So I think we should have meetings, and we start meetings and get that going and talk to them, and then we come to a good consensus from the council and from the citizens. I know that's the reason why I became a city council. We didn't have a real good, sometimes we didn't have good communications with our citizens, and that's why I try to go out and talk to the citizens, so I know what they're thinking. Do you know, I went and talked to citizens, they had never met a mayor, and that kind of blew me away when they said, I've never met a mayor before in here. So anyway, that's how much attached we are with the community. But what I would say we would do is have meetings with our citizens and invite everybody for this particular project. Don't talk about nothing else, let's talk about this roundabout issue.
Well, my concern is that we need to move relatively quickly. Jeff, can
Yes.
you give us a feel for when you would need the go-ahead to start working on this?
well, I think really, as soon as they issue the notice of funding opportunity, we'd probably need to start.
So could we get something scheduled next week? And
Yes.
I mean,
We could try, I mean,
Well,
in the
I
week or
mean,
the week after.
if the funding guidance isn't out till April, you've got all of March to,
Well, we're
and
already
part,
half,
most of April
yeah,
to get,
we have about a month.
yeah, about a month to get things scheduled.
How much would it cost to repair, I mean, those kind of estimates, what it's gonna cost to replace the bridges and it's gonna come out of our pocket, right?
Correct.
And even to rebuild them, whatever it's gonna come out, have those estimates there too, so they know what,
I don't have really hard estimates on those, since we
Uh-huh.
haven't really had anybody take a really hard look at it, but
Mhm.
I have,
back of the napkin, 7 million.
Yeah,
yeah, correct.
I think that's a message that that neighborhood doesn't fully understand.
correct.
Because they don't want higher taxes. They don't want $7 million on their, but they don't understand all the competing interests.
And we did discuss that, actually.
Yeah,
We did-
Mayor, I'd hate to put you guys in the position of suggesting that a proxy vote with the Bricktown neighborhood is gonna be supportive of the application, because it won't be.
Okay.
no.
I was an engaged participant in that last meeting. We nearly walked out with their lives. They were a friendly group by the time we were done, and I appreciate your involvement in that meeting, Steve, because it was a hostile meeting. But at the end of the day, it's a neighborhood characteristic issue that really gets out of context with the bigger piece of the city and the greater good concept. So you'd be balancing that. And I think in the interest of time, what you may want to consider doing is either support the application process or don't. Allow staff to advance the application, be working towards that. And then we have a series of interact meetings, not just one, but maybe several, as the application is pending, just to explain to people what we've applied for. And they will have the opportunity in that process to reach out to some of the same people that we're sending letters to requesting support. They'll have the same opportunity to advance opposition to those same people in the funding party. And I think some of that happened last time, to be honest. I think there were some vocal people that got involved late in the process that shut the application down. But in the interest of time, I don't think there's gonna be a proxy vote that'll ever support this application.
If you go back in time in Hutchinson's history, back into the mid-1960s, there was an urban renewal federal funding program that cities were taking advantage of. And for some unknown reason, the city fathers of Hutchinson, along with the voters, turned down that opportunity for urban renewal funding that set this community back years and years and years and years as far as its downtown interurban development. And we paid the price for that. And I think we would be highly criticized by the public and by the taxpayers if we didn't take advantage of this opportunity to proceed with the grant application and see where the chips may fall and put all of our efforts toward the quality application in anticipation that we will be successful this time.
I was originally against it because the whole roundabout. A lot of people have issues with the roundabout, and I've always asked, is there an alternative? And I know we went through this a lot last year. There isn't an alternative. Like if there was any way to get rid of the bridges and not have a roundabout, I think that would be acceptable by the majority of the town. But I guess there are setbacks with the stoplights that cause that to be an issue.
There are some grades that we.
Yeah, some grades and
That
some
would
setbacks.
be
with-
some difficulties
Yes.
that we couldn't meet minimum
Yeah.
grades for those types
So,
of things.
I think as a way, something that we need to learn how to compromise, right? I know that's turned into a dirty word lately, but maybe there's some other things that community needs, and we can talk about all of it, like what our needs are with the roundabout, what their needs are for their community, and see if we can't have some sort of compromise between the two communities, like where we can start getting started on some of those compromises around the outer edge of the project and saying, look, we need a compromise from you so we can invest in our city and the future of the city and take advantage of these tax dollars so we can save $5 million. Out of that $5 million that we save, we can probably start getting work on some of these other things that you need in that community, like the roads and the sidewalks and safety issues that they have concerns about in that area. Does that make sense? Like saying, we are going to invest, we're trying to get $11 million invested in the area. We're going to save $5 million if we do it this way. And we also will invest this much into some of the other areas in that community so that the investment doesn't just stop at the end of the roundabout. Let's take this whole community area that's been neglected and let's bring the whole thing up so that when you're traveling through that new corridor, you're not looking to the left and seeing blight still, right? Like, let's make a commitment to invest highly into the community and see if we can't come to a compromise between needs between the city long-term and that community.
I agree, and I think the city manager made some really strong points and a good recommendation that we should follow. Yes, we need to take into account the desires and the needs of that part of the town, absolutely. But if you think, and you think, Jeff, both Jeffs, that we can't hold off any longer, that we need to start moving forward, then I'm in favor of that for the long-term benefit of our community.
My only point of all that is that when you say yes to this, that's telling me the citizens south end of town, you don't care about them. You're going to go ahead and do what you want to do, regardless of what they're saying. And that's the reason why I ran for council. You got to listen to the people. And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Contral, about we got to get moving. The chances of us getting this grant again is very little. It's going to be a hard decision for me. I understand that. I do. I understand we got to get going with this. But in the same token, I feel that they're listening to this right now, and they're saying, "You didn't listen to me, Steve. When I went over there and talked to them, you didn't listen to me. They're going to do what they want to do." So,
Steve, there's a difference between listening to people and giving them everything they want. I'll give you an example. I live in a neighborhood near 20th and Lorraine, and there's a bowling alley about a block north of where I live, 2 blocks. When that development was proposed before the council, the entire block of 21st Street came out in opposition, not in my backyard. We have very little in this community for young people to do, very little recreational opportunities like that, and that neighborhood didn't want it. we made the tough decision to vote in favor of that anyway, and now you can see it's done nothing to harm property values. If anything else, it's helped, and it's been a benefit to the whole community. We had the same situation on North Severance across the street from Fairgrounds Park when somebody proposed amazing, beautiful market rate apartments. That whole neighborhood adjacent to them came out in opposition, not in my backyard. That filled a huge gap in our community for rentals. One of the first developments of its kind in years, multi-unit developments for market rate apartments. You always have opposition to a project if it's in your neighborhood, and I get that. We need to respect those needs because we're not gonna wake up every day and be faced with a dead end at B Street like they are. I understand that, but at some point you have to take into account what other kind of concessions can we make for that neighborhood while respecting what's best for the community at large. So yes, just because you don't give them the answer that they want doesn't mean you're not listening. Sarah talked about compromise. Those are the kinds of things we need to come to. Compromises on other things to benefit that neighborhood.
Well, I understand all that, Jade. I mean, I understand that's what's the hard decision for me.
I know.
understand we have to make the decisions for what's best for the county, for the city, what's good for the citizens.
I would suggest we have a talk with them and see what kinds of things we could do in that area to improve mobility with the sidewalks and streets that can easily be converted in with the new project.
I agree with the council member, and typically when that's done, you have a group that gets together, you have some pin-up boards, and you might determine what the collective interest of the neighborhood is. Now, we did this in that last meeting.
Yeah.
We didn't set out to do that, but the outcome of that meeting was, well, we've got some sidewalk issues. We want our streets redone. We have some potholes to fix. So there's some things like that. What you probably wouldn't want to do is to do some of those within the fringe area of that construction, the proposed construction area, in advance of the project. Those priorities should be gleaned, but then tacked on to the back side of the project, so we can tailor it into the funding. But then also let everyone know that there's a commitment from the city, the governing body, that if the project is funded, that here's what you can expect in furtherance of that investment of the community, instead of front loading those ancillary projects. But I agree with you, that is important.
But maybe some of the stuff farther back is what I'm saying, that we could integrate before.
I think that'd be up to the governing body. I think if you
That we
attempted
could discuss during the next budget meeting?
you
about
guys are the
funding
council,
some-
you can set that up at any time.
Because I think we need to send a message that we want to invest in that community. We want that corridor and that area to be highly invested in. Because if we're gonna, and I think if we can get, like I said, I've kind of switched on this. I don't like roundabouts, but like I said, we can't do it any other way. I think it would look beautiful though if we had a beautiful corridor and a highly invested in Southwest Bricktown.
Jeff, can we have a meeting?
That's over where Boys and Girls Club is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot over there, and I think we need to invest highly in that area. And I think, I would hope that we can come to a compromise saying we save $5 million, we're gonna get this in, and we're gonna highly invest in that area, because we just got a grant, we got the whole area more lively and beautiful, and we're gonna extend that farther with some of our own funds.
Well, in the discussion I had with them, we had a discussion, why can't we just redo the bridges and take the rest of the money and put it on the streets, repave the streets, and it still be under $11 million. But the only problem with all that, whatever the cost of the bridge roundabout
We
was,
wouldn't have the
what was
money.
it?
We would
You
not
wouldn't have
have
the-
the money
I
to do the
understand that.
bridges
I understand that.
do the roads.
I understand that,
We
okay?
would be putting our road and infrastructure back years if we had to invest in this by ourselves. Because the 11 million, we're only having to pay 2.5 million. All right, and if you want to do okay, so I was opposed to it until I started crunching the numbers, because I'm a numbers person, right? And I'm sitting here saying, if we go along with it and we save that money, we can invest more in our roads and our sidewalks. And I think a big thing that we need to talk about is sidewalks. This town has always taken the approach that the sidewalk is a property owner's, but that's not entirely true. It's a right of way, and there's other cities in Kansas that do 30% match, 50% match, 80% match, and have programs, and sometimes in some areas 100% with just the consent of the neighborhood, because it is a public right of way, and you don't have to put it all on. And I think we should talk about this because we don't have a bus system, right? Our kids primarily get driven to school or walk on the sidewalks. We don't have public transportation, and a lot of our sidewalks are really bad. And so I think if we're gonna save $5 million, I think we need to at least take a good percent of that and start applying it towards some of these sidewalks and having a commitment to infrastructure as far as roads and sidewalks, especially down in that area.
I'm not going to argue with the sidewalk issue because I do agree. We do need to put money into sidewalks. I don't think kids, I'm trying to remember, they closed Avenue A as an elementary attendance center. So those kids are going somewhere else, and they have to be being bused out of that neighborhood. Does anybody know? Steve, do you know?
No.
They've got to be being bused too.
I thought
whether-
they had pre-K there, though.
They have pre-K, but pre-K kids mostly aren't walking to school by themselves. There's some issues there that it's not quite as simple as it might sound. If we go ahead and apply for the grant, I would like to see us at least run a parallel, and that's a lot of work on you, Jeff, I know. But if we don't get the grant again, I'd like for us to be ready to start on something, because we've put this off now for 3 years, or 2 years plus. And there is a segment of the community that's getting very frustrated about the fact that we haven't done anything with Woody Seed. So I think if we're gonna go ahead and apply for the grant, then we need to have a parallel backup. So that if we don't get it again this year,
Yeah, then we gotta move.
we've gotta move. We can't just sit on our tail continually.
What do you think the engineering costs associated with a plan like that would be?
I don't even know kind
Tens
of
of
what the scope
thousands?
would be at this point, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I realize that.
I'd have to we'd have to figure out a little bit of a plan there, and then maybe take into account some of the neighborhood discussions
Yeah.
to figure out some of those options, I think. That would
Well,
be
and-
the best way, instead of just shooting a number at it.
Yeah, and you don't have your bridge study back, right?
Well, we have, our biannual bridge inspections were done.
Okay.
They're a look at all the bridges in the
Mhm.
town, and we're starting to get a number of things we need to start moving on throughout the community. But Avenue B Bridge, they did indicate it was most likely a replacement project.
Okay.
For sure. And then there's some issues with Avenue C and Avenue A that would have to be taken care of and looked at to see if it's better to repair or replace those. at
Okay.
that time too, so.
So you've got some data to
We
work
just,
with.
yeah, we just got everything back about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Is there any way that we can have these meetings, and by the next meeting we have, when's the next city council meeting, the 20th? I don't know.
No, it'd be the
April.
6th.
April 6th.
Is that gonna matter 2 weeks that we have to apply for this? I mean, 2 weeks, we get the meetings, and
I don't know that that's a critical time period or anything at this point.
I'd like to bring this back to April 6th meeting, to okay, and the applying for the grant. That's my personal opinion. Then we have the meetings, and then we proceed what we have to do. That's what I'd like to see.
Is this by consensus or is this by formal motion?
Gosh.
Yep.
I'm sorry to bring this to you guys, because I knew it'd be
All
a
right.
controversial
No, that's fine.
discussion.
Yeah. We're big boys. We
I-
can-
I see a split vote coming,
Yeah.
and I don't really know that it changes the outcome. If it's gonna be teed up for the next council meeting, I see it as an opportunity for the public to attend and be present.
That's right, because we should be open by then.
That's
So
right.
they could come if they have an interest in
So you would be
speaking.
looking for a formal motion?
I don't know that I
Or
put it on the
formal.
agenda accordingly, but I think that'd be appropriate.
Yeah, I think just so we understand what
Yeah.
the next step would be.
So a motion would say we bring this to the next meeting, right?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the discussion.
Right.
In my mind, the motion would be whether we proceed as a governing body to authorize the submission of a build grant
Right.
application.
Okay.
Yes or no?
Wonder if there'd be a second for that.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Yep.
Oh,
Let me catch up. Myra Cavallo?
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes, with conditions.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
yes. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
As you guys know, April 1st, we're going to be open at City Hall. That's our projection. We're geared up, getting ready for that. And also, I wanted to give thanks to Jade. Thank you, the Cosmosphere. They had a board seat that they've been trying to fill, I guess, for some time. And thank you for your willingness to do that. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
One
Rest
other
of the
thing is there, how do we can advertise this? Because I want to make sure everybody gets noticed. Just by word of mouth or?
We typically don't advertise agenda items.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be, what's the governing body want to do as far as direction to staff?
Can,
Do we have an email list from the last time we had a community meeting there? What can we do?
I don't know that we had an email list.
I don't-
It went to the community area.
can we do any form of survey?
The southwest Bricktown area, they have regular meetings. I think that got out through that.
The neighborhood development
neighborhood.
out of Hutchinson?
Yeah, they're
Maybe.
pretty well organized.
Okay.
I don't necessarily have I mean, we could put all those addresses together, but.
Yeah, and talk to Margot Douglas, and the word will get out, right, Steve?
Right. Okay, thank you, council. We'll move for adjournment.
Second.
I need a motion.
I move.
Oh,
A
I thought
motion
that's
for
what he
adjourn-
said. I thought he said move to adjourn, sorry.
A motion for move to adjourn, please.
Okay, you want to make the motion
Yes.
to adjourn?
Yes.
Or you're asking council?
No, I'll make the motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
And I'm seconding. Sorry.
Myra Cavallo?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.